channel.
Good evening, it's 11 o'clock. I'm Alex Armstrong, and this is Alex Armstrong Tonight, late edition. New powers to police protest. As I warned earlier, the Home Secretary is planning on new policing powers to ban protests. But be warned. Plus,
we have to show that we have learned from the policy mistake of letting bureaucrats decide the immigration system. But put simply, we didn't achieve enough.
Do you think the Tories have learnt from their mistakes? Another pledge today from the Tories as they vow to slash, get this, £300 billion from Britain's welfare bill, as Mel Stride, the Shadow Chancellor, says we can't keep spending money we don't have. Also, the Prime Minister's security faces a grilling from MPs over the China spy scandal as they want answers over why the case was dropped. Also joining me to talk about all this news, political commentator Chloe Dobbs, comedian Paul Cox, and political commentator Samuel Sweek. And I can't wait to get your reactions to the front page of the Daily Mirror and Gary Neville.
The division that's being created is absolutely disgusting. Mainly created by angry, middle-aged white men.
I have got all your front pages here for you, and what a variety we have this evening. Let's start off with The Independent, shall we? Badenoch told she has a death wish for the Conservative Party. Tory leader announced she would ditch the European Convention on Human Rights and deport 150,000 a year, causing the former Attorney General Dominic Grieve to warn it would mean the demise of the party. I don't know whether we should take him too seriously. I'll tell you why in a short moment. But the Daily Express, the Tory pledged to slash £300 billion on the cost of welfare. The Metro thump the gazumpers. I'm not sure what that's all about. For The Sun, Grace and Honour, George Medal for Hero Teen. She died fighting to save a friend. I would like to talk briefly a little bit about that shortly too. The Guardian, alarm over Minister's plan to give police more anti-protest powers. The Daily Telegraph, the Prime Minister must come clean on China, says Tories. The Times, Mahmoud, police could get power to ban protests. I highly suspect they are going to get those. The Times, PM's security chief faces MPs grilling over China spy scandal. The finger is pointed at Jonathan Powell, they say, as Commons' espionage case collapses. The Mirror, Gary Neville's plea, don't use our flag to divide us. Former England star, this symbol of pride, has been hijacked to spread hatred. Well. To join... and we, of course, we've got the Mail. We've got the PM's security chief there facing MPs grilling over China spy scandal. There you go. Right, joining me to talk about all of this, political commentator Chloe Dobbs, comedian Paul Cox, and political commentator Samuel Sweek. Lovely stuff. Well, Paul, what do you fancy? What takes your fancy straight away?
What do I fancy?
What do you fancy?
Well, the one thing I haven't read is the gazumper thing, so, so give me a break.
I'll give you,
by which I mean not, an actual break, so that we can. But I think the Tories pledged to slash £3 billion cost on welfare is an interesting story, on the basis that, let's be honest, that's something that Labour have tried to do and failed to do on the basis that their backbenchers haven't allowed them to do it. So I'd like to have a go at Rachel Reeves, but she's actually attempted to do this. And I think it's going to be a lot easier for the Tory party to do this. It's the sort of party that would do this. Now, I don't think it's nasty politics in any way, shape or form. I think it's inevitable that you have to. I learned today for the first time covering another show that we pay benefits for parents with children with ADHD. Now, I'm not suggesting that ADHD isn't a problem, but there isn't a kid without ADHD anymore, so that is an incredible amount of benefits that's going out. I don't want to be too cynical about benefits either, because I'm not totally against the welfare state. But the fact that we can slash £3 billion from a welfare cost, from a welfare bill, is incredibly telling.
Yeah.
We, as a country, we can't afford to do it. Now, you can argue till the cows come home why that might be. You can talk about immigration. You can talk about just just being too easy-handed with the benefits themselves. But we have to get on top of it. We simply have to get on top of it.
Well, this is, of course, the front page of the Daily Express. Tories pledging to slash £300 billion cost of welfare bill. This is Mel Stride, the shadow chancellor. And it sounds to me, Chloe, like a return to austerity if Kemi Badenoch's Tory party somehow win the next general election. Do you think there's an appetite for this in politics at the moment?
I think that there is an appetite for it in that the markets are going to completely crash if we don't get a handle on the crazy amount of money that we are spending. This benefits bill just keeps on ballooning and ballooning. We're hearing that it might go up to potentially 100 billion a year. It's just completely unsustainable. So even if you think it's cruel to cut the welfare bill, it's something that we have to do. But I mean, Labour, look what happened when they tried to cut just 5 billion quid off the bill. But I do doubt the Tories' ability to sort the country's finances out, given they had 14 years. And look how much money they splashed around during COVID. That's part of the reason why we've got such high debt interest payments now.
Well, that's true, Sam. Do you think anyone believes the Tories on when it comes to the economy? Do you think they accept Kemi Badenoch's apology and acknowledgement that they got things wrong?
Well, I mean, Kemi's finished as far as I'm concerned, but I think a lot of people have reason to obviously believe that the Tories are willing to be cruel and to introduce austerity politics. I just think it's very telling, though, that once again, I mean, Kemi Badenoch here joining the race to the bottom behind Labour and Reform, but promising to have the fastest car, but is pushing a wheelbarrow, frankly. It's just incredible how much goodwill the Tories appear to have lost from their own base, and I include within that the wealthy donors to the party who now en masse are backing Reform, and I think that's also quite telling. But I think what's missing, and I think it's interesting as well, the Green Party had their conference this weekend, and I know it's not been picked up anywhere, but they're, as opposed to punching down, which all of the parties are currently promising to do, are actually talking about introducing a wealth tax to fund public services in this country, as opposed to taking stuff away from potentially very vulnerable people.
The problem with the wealth tax, though, is that once those people leave, they don't come back if they've been taxed.
That's completely debunked. If you look at studies from LSE and Tax Justice Network, for all of the news stories, and at times there was over 30 a day in this particular study, less than 0.03% of the billionaires in the country actually the millionaires in this country actually left. I think that's
You're actively squashing aspiration and success.
But if you're pushing people into poverty, you are pushing even more people, as opposed to taking
irrespective of sorry, didn't mean to talk over you, Sam. Irrespective of what politics you're invested in, and I would consider that a form of communism, I genuinely would. No, why wouldn't it be? It's trying to get equality across everybody, okay, which is, except for the people in charge,
asking people to pay their fair share. It's not taking away everybody's money, it's taking away a very, very tiny amount of their
reward success and have the people at the bottom of the chain know that they can aspire as well. By doing that, you're essentially keeping those people at the bottom of the chain.
They can't pay their rent. They can't pay their rent. They can't pay their bills. And we're talking about how it's taken the aspirations of people to be billionaires.
The people who are billionaires will have paid more. One billionaire will have paid far more tax than all four of us
still
here
has way
put together.
Has loads.
Okay,
this is the point about wealth
why are you
distributed.
demonising them when those people have put way more into the tax system to fund the NHS, to fund benefits for people that need them, and fund public services, right? They have put so much money into the system, and we should be thankful for what they have given, right? Rather than demonising them. How dare you have made all this money? How dare you have kept some of it
No one's
yourself?
being demonised, and it's always very interesting how the Billionaire Defence League comes out every single time you ask people to pay a tiny little bit more tax.
All right. Well, I don't think we're going to agree on that. If that's not going to agree on it.
And these billionaires, they employ lots of people. They grow the economy.
Because I think the audience want to know what's going on in the papers. Because we could talk about. I mean, I'd love to have a debate about capitalism and how we how we change the spending habits of the country. But that's for another time. Let's go to the Metro, because this is quite an interesting one. And many of you at home are house buyers and have bought a house in the past and may have had some agony in buying it. So unfortunately, I'm not quite there yet, but maybe I will one day. PM's bid to end agony for house buyers. Thump the gazumpers, the PM is going to say. Sellers who pull the plug after bagging a better offer could face fines under proposed conditional contracts. Vital details about properties will have to be shared up front as torturous process is brought up to date. What do you make of this?
So, I'm someone who has actually bought houses.
Yep.
I made that sound grandiose then.
How many houses do you own, Paul?
I've actually bought 3.
Oh, do you own them all concurrently?
No,
like
I didn't own any of them concurrently.
Do you share them with Anton Arena, perchance?
I bought my first house when I was 21. I was born in the end of 79, so I bought my first house in the early 2000s.
Good for you.
The thought of having a house at 21.
I know.
I'm 25 and the prospect seems decades away.
But a lot of people, I mean, it was still unusual for someone to do it when I did it.
Okay.
Not just because of affordability, because most people want to live their lives at 21. I just decided that's what I wanted to do because I thought it would be a good idea. And it's turned out to be, just by sheer luck, I'm no genius, but gazumping is a huge problem. And we do have a solution to it already in Scotland, which is closed bids. So you go and view a house, you put a closed bid in, the people who own the house choose the bid. They might not choose the highest bid, but they choose the bid, OK? And then you're in, you're contracted in. You're signing contracts at that point. That doesn't happen in England and Wales. In England and Wales, you can right up to the end to exchanging contracts, which is done literally a week or two before you move house. You can move away. And I have actually been in a situation where the house I was buying, the sellers decided that they didn't want to sell to us because they were too emotionally attached to the house.
Right.
But by that time, I'd already paid for surveys and all sorts of other guff with the solicitors to the tune of £3,000 or £4,000.
Yeah.
And lost that. There's no recourse. You can't get that back. So I see this being an issue that will help a lot of people. But maybe if you're not on the housing market and you never have been, you won't see this as an issue.
But I mean, the vast majority of the country obviously do own property, Chloe. So this will be a good news thing. And if you are a first-time buyer as well, you may potentially might want to buy your own home in the future. This will be good news for you too.
Potentially. I mean, the top of the headline sounds all well and good, but what I'm worried is this a part of some really long piece of red tape legislation, like this renters' rights bill, which has a few good things. We think, oh, it might be a little bit easier to have a pet, but you realise it's so long and so much red tape. And I think in this country, it takes so long to buy a house. Anyone who's bought a house in America knows, I mean, you can buy a place within a few weeks and have the keys. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Whereas here, it takes like a minimum of 6 months. If it's going to make the process here even longer than it already is because there's a load more red tape coming alongside this, then I'll be sceptical. But on the basis of what Paul said, that at least sounds like a good idea. With regards to bidding.
Yeah, certainly. Samuel, I mean, from my perspective here, I think maybe I'll share a bit of solidarity with Chloe. I don't own my own property, so I don't particularly care about this policy, but I would like the process to be simple. If I do decide to buy a house, should we welcome reforms in these sorts of areas?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think I can probably speak to many people out there as a renter in London that the dream of actually owning my own home is a dream, and will remain that way probably for the rest of my life. But I mean, anything that helps people actually get onto into the housing market. Good.
There we go. Oh, well, consensus on the panel. Look at that. There we go. We should just send us to put us on the peace board. So don't worry about Tony Blair. Whack us lot on there. We'll solve the problems for you. Let's talk about. Let's go to this spy story. Now, this is quite complex. I don't want to overindulge in the complexity of it because I don't want to bore you all at home, frankly, either. So, but I'll do my best. So, the Prime Minister's security chief, this is the front page of the Daily Mail, is facing MPs grilling over the China spy scandal. Now, the finger's been pointed at Jonathan Powell, so I'll just give you a little bit of a tease on this here. So Keir Starmer's National Security Advisor could be hauled before members of Parliament to answer questions about the collapse of the Chinese spying case. Jonathan Powell is facing calls to appear before Parliament to explain why charges were dropped against 2 British men accused of passing secrets to Beijing. Sir Lindsay Hoyle, the House Commons Speaker, previously warned that the decision gave a green light to hostile states and said he was considering bringing a private prosecution against them. Now, ministers have so far refused to explain what happened, prompting MPs to demand that Mr Powell, who is Tony Blair's former something, and it runs out there, I can't quite remember what it was, but it's always a connection to Tony Blair somehow, wasn't there, Paul? But the interesting part here is that this
former
case was
chief
dropped.
of something.
Yes. This case was dropped because of... I'm going to forget what it was now. Because the government wouldn't say that China was an enemy of the state. So, are we just so reliant on China now? We're too afraid to call them our enemy?
Yes, absolutely. There's too many deals with China. There's too many connections with China. Our whole economy is propped up by China. China is also the enemy. So you've got this juxtaposition of the enemy that we're in bed with that underpin our economy. It's a bit like the Ukraine war, OK?
Yeah.
Europe as a whole is funding Russia's war against Ukraine by buying carbon, oil, petroleum, whatever it is, from Russia. And the whole world is connected in that way.
Yeah.
I mean, what I would say is, once again, this is like a quagmire of sleaze within the Labour Party. Someone's definitely got the knives out for Keir Starmer and his cabinet.
Definitely.
And it will definitely be within the Labour Party.
Always
because
is.
you would have to know this stuff. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on. Each week, as soon as one scandal's resolved, there's a new scandal awaiting in the wings. So this is not cool. This is not good. But I don't. But this it's very difficult.
Pragmatic? Is it pragmatic?
It is, absolutely. It's very difficult to criticise, because what do you do? Because you cannot. If you're going to be honest, then you're not going to win the geopolitical game. Simple as that.
This is the problem, isn't it, Chloe? And I do have, I mean, as much as I really do not want any country spying on us, we are beholden to China. They could just say, right, the delivery stop tomorrow.
It's so hard to strike the balance with China, because they're a huge country that's never going to go away. But I do think that we need to be careful when it comes to spying. I mean, I was absolutely shocked when I saw the story to hear that MPs were being told that they need to be careful what they're saying if they're going for any walks around St James's Park, because there are little spying microphones hidden in the bushes and on the tubes and whatnot as well. I mean, it's crazy. But I mean, just to clarify, in this case, the official line seems to be that it is dropped because the CPS have said they do not have sufficient evidence. So it may be completely independent and nothing to do with Labour, but there are big questions to be asked about whether they leaned on the CPS for geopolitical reasons and said it might be a good idea to drop this.
That works in the Labour government now that might have something to do with the CPS. I just can't think of anyone. No one comes to mind.
Oh, Director of Prosecution. I don't know who that is.
I can possibly say nothing comes to mind, Chloe. Samuel, I think regardless of this, I think Paul made a really good point. It does seem like there's people out to get this government out of office, or at least some of the people working within the government. We've had scandal after scandal almost weekly at this point.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the inner workings of the right wing of the Labour Party, for which Starmer is very much wedded to. Yeah, they've got a long history of disunity and disloyalty. They only know, and I can speak as someone who used to be in the Labour Party and off the left of the party, they only know how to defeat the left within the party. When you put them in government, that's when the real games start. And as we've seen over the last year and a bit, clueless, absolutely clueless. They don't know how to run a country. They have not a single ounce of loyalty between them. And, you know, like we say, let's wait and see what the parliamentary questions bring about on this. But yeah, it doesn't read very well on the face of it, but let's obviously wait and see.
It is fascinating, though, listening to Samuel talk, because the left of Labour and the centre-right of everybody else have now become the centre of the Venn diagram. I find myself, I'll see a Corbyn tweet and think, God, I agree with that man, and then check out that it's Jeremy Corbyn, particularly on ID or whatever. You're like, oh my God, we're all starting to agree on things, and
there's nothing like hate to bring people together.
Exactly.
No, but of course, you know, look, the Labour government would argue they have inherited a 14-year disaster from the Conservative Party, and as you know, I am no fan of the way the Tories govern this country. We were misled, in my opinion, time and time again by successive Tory governments saying they're going to fix immigration, they're going to fix the economy, and actually none of these things ever got any better. They only got worse, and maybe we need to give Keir Starmer a little bit more time.
Are you saying we need to give...
I'm not saying anything. I'm saying some people would say that.
Are you saying that we need to do more deals with China to prop the economy up after 14 years of failure?
You might say that, Chloe. I'm certainly not saying that. You might say that, though, perhaps.
China, I think we're never going to completely get rid of our economic ties with them, but I do think we need to, on spying, be very, very strict. And the whole hoo-ha over the missing part of the planning application for their embassy, where they wouldn't tell us what's there.
That secret base.
I'm sorry, but we need to know what's going on there. The Prime Minister, generally, should we give him time to show if he's doing a good job? I'm sorry, but you've had a year. I don't expect perfection at this point, but I'd at least like to see progress. But all I see is the economy getting worse, the boat crossings going up, and everything else. It's getting worse rather than better, so I'm not impressed.
It's China, OK? It's the biggest problem we've got is China, Paul.
Of course, no, listen, so I don't know why I just felt the need. Just felt the need to get that out of my system. It's been brewing.
People love it.
China.
And it's just, but we are becoming like this sort of... we're stuck, aren't we? We're becoming like like a small satellite state at the end of World War II, where we would sort of be like this Eastern Europe, where we've got China on one side, it's America on the other, and we're just caught in the middle of this economic sort of undercurrent where we have to just go where the money is, because look at the state of our country. It's horrendous, isn't it, to see Britain so weak? And I'd love to see us be so much stronger than that. Listen, loads more to talk about here. Loads more. Do you think Gary Neville's a useful idiot? I do. And we're going to talk more about his comments in the Daily Mirror coming up as well. And also, could it be time up for Hamas? We're going to find out more with Ben Leo live in Washington, D.C. This is Alex Armstrong Tonight, late edition. I'll see you in just a tick.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Farage, Monday to Thursday from 7 p.m.
And I'm very pleased to say I've got joining me down the line Sir Jeffrey Boycott, former Yorkshire and England cricketer. Now, Jeffrey, he didn't umpire quite as many test matches as you played, but boy, he was around for a long time, wasn't he?
He was special, mainly because he made good decisions, but he also, the players loved him. He was honest, he was fair, but he had humour. He could manage to diffuse situations. And they just liked being with him. He made you laugh. Yeah, I first met him, I was 15. My Uncle Algie took me to Barnsley Cricket Club. He was a star player. He got 50 every week. He was a very, very good player. Michael Parkinson was there, sometimes played. Michael was quite good. And I've known both of them for a long time. They were like elder brothers to me. And so over 70 years, I've seen him as a player. Technically, he was very good. But unfortunately, he was very nervous. When I first got in the team at 16, he used to say to me, "Put my gloves on, Gerald." He was shaking like this. And I said, "My name's Jeffrey." He said, "Right, Gerald, put my gloves on, please." And he called me Gerald for about, I don't know how many years. We had a little birthday party when my daughter Emma was about 16. And she said to him at that, she said, "Dickie, you've got to stop calling him Gerald. His name's Jeffrey." So from then on, I got Jeffrey. And he loved it. He loved Emma. He said to her, he said, "If I had a daughter, I'd like to be just like you." She said, "Well, you can adopt me then, quick as a wink." He was a character. Look, he was lovable.
GB News, the People's Channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. We can now speak with the political editor of HuffPost UK, Kevin Schofield. Of course, I've got my panel here who will ask questions. Kevin, lovely to speak to you. Where should we start? Should we start with the Daily Express front page? Because the Tories are making this massive economic pledge here, £300 billion. It's eye-watering amount of money that the Shadow Chancellor wants to slash off the welfare bill. Tell me more, Kevin.
Yeah, well, I think actually it's the 300 billion is the total bill, and they want, I think, looking at the press release, they're wanting to slash something like £23 billion off it. Now, two things leap out at me on this. One, I think a lot of voters will say, well, hang on a minute, you guys had 14 years to slash the welfare bill, so why didn't you do it then? But also, when you look at the detail, one of the key elements of it is to stop paying benefits to foreign citizens, which was announced by Reform a couple of weeks ago. And it just makes you think, well, you know, are you a Reform Tribute Act now? Are you, you know, are people, if you are tempted to vote Reform, are you not just going to vote Reform? Why would you vote Conservative if all they're doing is just regurgitating policies that Reform have already announced? So I can understand maybe why the Tories are announcing this at the party conference. They've got to have, you know, things to announce. But it does seem like a bit of a reheated Reform policy from just a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, and of course, just on the, I want to stick on this story of cuts because, of course, it feels to me like if they win the next election, they'd want to have some form of an austerity-style government, which I think many people would argue is needed, but some would argue, of course, it's just impossible to do now. But at the front page of The Independent, of course, Dominic Grieve also attacking Kemi Badenoch, saying this is a death wish for the Tory party to leave the ECHR. And she's, of course, quite strong on this and said, if you don't like it, well, you're not going to, if you don't sign up to agree to leave the ECHR, well, you're not going to be selected in the next election. Is this maybe a cleansing of the Tory party?
Well, I'm not sure about a cleansing. I mean, it's not that much of a surprise, I guess, that Dominic Grieve isn't in favour of it. I mean, remember, I think he was one of the Tory MPs that was kicked out by Boris Johnson way back in, I think, 2019. At the time of the whole Brexit wars. I mean, again, though, this is another policy which Nigel Farage has been in favour of for a very long time indeed. In fact, 12 months ago, when Kemi Badenoch was running against Robert Jenrick during the Tory leadership, Robert Jenrick said at that time, I would take the UK out of the ECHR, and she called it a gimmick. She said, you know, you be wary of people with simple solutions to complicated problems. But now, you know, 12 months on, the Tories lagging way behind Reform and Labour in the polls. Lo and behold, now she thinks that leaving the ECHR is a good idea. And again, it's one of those things that people say, well, hang on a minute, are you not just maybe copying Reform? And if we're tempted by Reform, we'll vote Reform. We're not going to vote for some sort of diet reform.
Do you think all this dithering, and I totally agree with you, because all this dithering perhaps has cost them dearly in the polls. I've seen polls out last week put them at two polls put them at 14%. I think some of the best they've got lately is 16%, 18% max, and that's very variable there. But on average, they're sort of coming down even further. Is it looking likely that she's going to be gone this time next year? She won't even be around for the next party conference?
I'd be surprised if she was still leader come the next party conference. I think next May is going to be crunch time, not just for Kemi Badenoch, but for Keir Starmer as well. We've got the Scottish Parliament elections, we've got the Welsh Senate elections, we've got local elections across England. And if the polls are in any way accurate right now, it would look as though both Labour and the Tories are in for an absolute shellacking that night. And were that to happen, then I think certainly the Tories, as we know, can be quite ruthless at getting rid of unsuccessful leaders. I think she'll be in a lot of trouble, and probably Keir Starmer as well.
I think you might be on the money there, Kevin. I'd like to bring in some members of my panel here. Chloe Dobbs would like to ask you some questions.
Kevin, you questioned there why someone should vote for the Tories if their policies are the same as Reform. What do you think the Conservatives can do in terms of where they position themselves on the political spectrum and what policies they could announce to give them some sort of unique selling point over Reform and give them their best shot at the next election?
Well, I think one policy that I think they have already announced, which does make them distinctly Conservative, I would say, is indifferent from Reform, is on the two-child benefit cap. Now, we expect Labour to announce at the budget that the two-child benefit cap is going to be lifted. I think Reform have also said that they're not in favour of the two-child benefit cap, which is quite unusual, really, for a conservative, small c Conservative party. So what Kemi Badenoch has said is, look, if we get back in, we will reinstate it. They think it's a popular policy, and I think some of the polling would suggest that actually it is a popular policy, and they would say, well, this is fiscally conservative. This is a way of keeping a lid on the welfare budget, just like we were talking about. Now, they've also, Reform are also saying that they would nationalise various industries, which again is quite a left of centre, if not left-wing policy. So again, the Tories could maybe make themselves a bit more distinct by being more fiscally conservative. Whether or not that would work, however, I'm not so sure, because I think people right now just aren't listening to the Conservatives. I think that's the biggest problem that she's got. You know, people have got long memories. They remember the last Conservative government. They remember why they lost so heavily last July. And the problem that she's got right now is just earning the right to be heard. I mean, we saw Keir Starmer's Labour Party conference speech last week. I think he mentioned the Conservatives once. He mentioned Kemi Badenoch in passing. I mean, it's unheard of, really. They are still the official opposition. But Labour are focused on reform are focused on Labour, and it's almost like the Conservatives are completely shut out.
A quick question and a quick response, if you don't mind, Kevin. Samuel?
Yeah, I think it's pretty much agreed, I think, that both Kemi Badenoch and Keir Starmer are in deep trouble. Obviously, Kemi so soon into her leadership of the Tory party, and Keir Starmer very soon after a landslide victory in the general election. Do you think there are, at this point, any candidates who are doing manoeuvres or are doing anything to sort of like posit themselves as the alternative to these two faltering leaders?
Well, the obvious one on the Tory side is Robert Jenrick. I don't think he's ever stopped campaigning, even though he lost last year. He's very slick with his videos on social media, but straying away from his brief of justice. You know, he's talking economics, everything. You know, defence, home affairs, you name it. I think he still wants to be a leader. I don't think there's any doubt about that, as much as he might want to deny it. On the Labour side, well, Andy Burnham looked like he took a shot last week. It didn't come off for him. I wouldn't completely rule him out, but he certainly did himself a lot of damage last week. Wes Streeting would definitely be interested. Angela Rayner, could she maybe try to aim out some sort of comeback? Who knows? I think she's maybe damaged, obviously, by the tax controversy which led to her having to resign. So yeah, undoubtedly, though, there will be people will throw the hat into the ring. James Cleverly, I think, is another one who might fancy another crack at it, where Kemi Badenoch to fall on her sword.
Oh, well, there we go. Kevin Schofield, thank you so much for joining me, political editor there of the HuffPost UK. Brilliant stuff. Yeah, well, it could be the end of the uni party as we know it, couldn't it? Well, coming up, Boris Johnson reveals his one big regret. Well, I would say there's plenty of those, but can you guess what it is? And Ben Leo joins us live from Washington, D.C. next. This is Alex Armstrong Tonight, late edition.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
It's been very unsettled across parts of the eastern Mediterranean, and it will stay pretty wet across Greece and parts of the Balkans through the next few days. But Iberia, the Canary Islands and also Madeira having plenty of fine weather through the day on Monday. 1 or 2 showers for eastern Spain, but lots of fine sunny conditions across Italy too. We'll run into those thunderstorms and heavy spells of rain there across Greece, some stronger winds as well. And as we go towards Tuesday in the middle part of the week, that unsettled weather will push in towards Turkey as well, so potentially some flooding here.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Good evening and welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. After a stormy start to the weekend, the north-south split that we saw last week is going to return as we head into the new working week. It's all thanks to high pressure building down to the south of the UK. We'll continue to see some weather fronts just skirting across the very far north, bringing some further cloud and outbreaks of rain, particularly across western parts of Scotland as we head through the end of Sunday. This perhaps turning heavy at times in places, but mostly light, persistent rain and drizzle across western hills. Across much of England and Wales, though, generally a drier night to come, plenty of clear spells on offer and perhaps turning a little chilly in some rural spots in the very far south. Temperatures could be dropping down into the low single figures. A milder start then, though, across the very far north, particularly if you're stuck underneath that cloud and rain, and quite a damp start to the new working week across western parts of Scotland. We'll continue to see those outbreaks of rain persisting through much of the day. It'll perhaps be a little bit drier across eastern parts of Scotland, though still rather cloudy, and a cloudy start to the day across much of Northern Ireland and Northern England too. Some low cloud and mist and murk is possible over the hills, but any mist and fog that we might see developing under those clear skies overnight across much of England and Wales will clear relatively quickly through the morning, leaving a dry and bright start for many places in the south. That north-south split then continues as we go throughout much of Monday. Outbreaks of rain continuing across western parts of Scotland through the afternoon, but the best of any prolonged sunshine definitely across the south and the southeast. And temperatures will be up a little on Monday compared to what we saw over the weekend. 20, 21, perhaps even 22 degrees across the southeast, and even across the eastern parts of Scotland we could see into the low 20s. Tuesday is another damp start across the very far north. An area of rain sinks its way south and eastwards as we go towards the afternoon, perhaps turning a little brighter in the very far northwest, but a bit more cloud on offer across much of England and Wales. It's then turning settled as we head through the second half of the week, but after a warmer day on Monday, those temperatures are going to return closer to average.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Late Edition with me, Alex Armstrong. Joining me now, superstar of Late Show Live, which is coming up at midnight, is GB News, is, of course, Ben Leo. Ben, what a jam-packed show you're going to have tonight. I really want to ask you, because this peace deal, this is a peace deal Trump's put together. Of course, we've been talking about this all week with Tony Blair, but Trump has put a warning out, hasn't he? He said, if Hamas don't move quickly enough, all bets are off to return the hostages. What's the reaction in America?
I mean, America's waiting on bated breath, really, Alex and viewers, because they are meeting. Hamas are in Egypt meeting delegates from Israel. They're talking indirectly. The US will be there as well. Jared Kushner, Trump's son-in-law, is also going with Steve Witkoff, the Middle East envoy, as well. So there's big talks tonight and tomorrow in Egypt, and Hamas have a couple of conditions they want to iron out before agreeing to this deal. But President Trump tweeting, or at least posting, sorry, on Truth Social earlier that he's running out of patience with Hamas, and he warns that all hell will break loose if they fail to reach a peace agreement. One thing I'm interested on off the back of this, Alex, is what I'm calling a national day of shame. It's the anniversary of October the 7th on Tuesday. So it's 2 years, of course, since the horrific attack which killed 1,200 in Israel. You know, it was the worst atrocity against the Jews since the Holocaust. What's happening in Britain? Well, universities all across the country, Alex, are holding pro-Palestine protests to mark the anniversary. Of course, campaigning against Israel and the bombing campaign in Gaza, despite pleas from the likes of university chiefs, the police, community leaders not to hold the rallies on October the 7th. Please, 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 they say, just have some respect. And of course, this comes off the back of the Manchester attack just a few days ago as well. So I don't know what's wrong with university students. I think it just goes to prove that you can spend thousands on an education. Doesn't mean you're going to be any more intelligent than you were before you came in. And also, yeah, it's a sad, sad sight. I'm calling it a national day of shame for Britain, Alex, that universities all across the country, London, Birmingham, Manchester, Glasgow, holding massive rallies to mark October the 7th. Shame on them.
Yeah, it's really shocking stuff. We've been speaking about this, and listen, I will die defending people's right to protest, but I think there's a time and place for it. October the 7th was an attack on Israel, not the other way around. There's plenty of other times they could, of course, protested, but I think it's quite disgraceful indeed. But I can completely agree with that national day of shame. It certainly will be for us if it does go ahead. What else is coming up on your show, Ben?
British farmers will be keeping a keen eye on this development in the US. So President Donald Trump is apparently mooting a $10 billion bailout of the American farming industry. So they're experiencing a lot of problems similar to the UK, but they've got additional issues in terms of the tariffs that President Trump has been slapping on countries all around the world. That's been affecting agriculture, farming, crops all across the country from East Coast to West Coast. But President Trump now is showing his commitment to farmers and showing how much he appreciates Johnson loves the farmers and recognises, like most normal people, how important they are, putting the food on our plates. He is tabling what is reported to be a $10 billion bailout package. And when you compare that to the likes of Keir Starmer, the Labour government, who just seem, I argue, intent on screwing our farmers over and closing them down. And by the way, side point, I wonder who's going to buy up all these farms in the UK? BlackRock, anyone? Who knows? It's a stark contrast, isn't it, to the way that America treats their farmers to Britain.
Yeah, it's really interesting, then, because, you know, you'd think a country like America that is very much more pro sort of business intervention in things, so having businesses get involved in things like farming. You'd think here in Britain it'd be the exact opposite, given how much of a small country we are and our history as farmers. But I'm never surprised. I'm just never surprised anymore, Ben. Honestly, I feel like we've just all gone backwards in society. It's completely bonkers. Anyway, Ben.
Well, there's a big question to ask about the UK situation. So the inheritance tax rate on farmers will raise something like, according to the Treasury, £500 million a year. And we all know that will fund the NHS for one solitary day. So if it's not about the money, I'm just posing this question, I'm putting it out there. If it's not about the money, which it clearly isn't, what is it about? Who knows? Yeah, well, we'll see. What do you make of what's happened here today with the Conservative Party conference? We've had there's two front pages here. Very few mentioning Kemi Badenoch. She made her big speech today. I saw on Facebook there was only 88 people watching it on Facebook live stream, which I think is abysmal. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I was quite shocked at that. But the Independent are running with Dominic Greaves is saying that leaving the ECHR would be a death wish for the party. They just can't do anything right. They can't please anyone, can they? I'm surprised Dominic Greaves is still on the scene. I mean, I remember him during the Brexit days, ranting and raving about some pro-Europe stuff at the time. What I make of the conference, I saw Kemi's speech. It was slightly, I thought it was a bit boring, to be honest. But one of the key stories I saw relating to the conference, which came out last night, just a few hours before it all kicked off, was this new polling from More in Common, which found that even if Robert Jenrick was Tory leader, this new poll from More in Common suggested that they wouldn't get any poll boost at all. So according to this poll, it doesn't matter whether it's Kemi, whether it's Robert Jenrick. And Jenrick, by the way, I'm not sure if you guys noted, he wasn't on the front cover of the Tory conference brochure. Kemi Badenoch was standing there surrounded by, I think, 9 or 10 shadow cabinet ministers. Jenrick, nowhere to be seen. And also as well, Jenrick rumoured to be tabling, allies of Jenrick rumoured to be tabling no confidence letters under Kemi's leadership. But Alex, here's a question for you. Who would have given, according to this poll, who would have given the Tories, hypothetically, a 6-point poll boost if they were Tory leader, putting them neck and neck with Reform? Any guesses?
Do you know, the only person that comes to mind is Boris Johnson. Yeah, it was Boris, yeah. Yeah, I see. But I think that's totally nuts, Ben. I think the public have and maybe I'm completely wrong. Maybe the general population of the country still love Boris Johnson. I think what he did to this country is unforgivable. I think the man who said take back control to then go and open the floodgates to millions of people in the country when people can't even afford to buy homes. It's what a disaster. What a disaster. And I don't think he ran the country very well in hindsight anyway. And I was a big cheerleader at the time, so I'm very happy to admit when I'm wrong, and I was totally wrong about Boris Johnson. I find that completely bonkers. But of course, the Tories are also pledging this massive welfare cut as well. They're saying they want to slash tens of billions of pounds off of the bloated 300 billion welfare bill. At what point do we say, many of the panellists tonight have said this here, they're just copying Reform UK at this point, aren't they? All this dithering has led Reform to speed away in the polls.
Well, it's interesting that because, by the way, just on the Boris point, I mentioned this at about 1 in the morning last night, and gbnews.com/yoursay went absolutely wild with comments. I mean, 95% saying that, as you just said, Alex, Boris completely messed it up. He was this, he was that. It made me laugh last night. But on the Kemi point, it was interesting to see Badenoch talking about Nigel Farage and Reform not being proper Conservatives. She was saying if you want proper conservatism, you need to vote for the Tories. She was citing the cut on the 2-child benefit cap. She was citing welfare reforms as well, and a few other bits and bobs. And I just thought it was quite interesting because it's the first time I've seen Badenoch and the Tories really set their stall out, leaving the ECHR, having the UK ICE version, the anti-migrant squad, who would kick out, according to the Tories, 750,000 illegals, and the rest I'd add to that. So it was interesting interesting how they set their stall out. I mean, Kemi's attack on reform is that they're not really Conservatives, but I don't see how that's going to cut through, how that's going to close that poll gap. It just seems a bit, A, it doesn't make sense, and B, it just seems a bit inane.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I think at a time where really she should be trying to... if I were Kemi Badenoch right now, I'd be trying to at least suck up a little bit to Reform UK in the hopes that maybe the parties will merge before the Tories are completely obliterated. That's what the sensible thing would be. But of course, this marking one of the last big speeches, every single leader of almost every single party has mentioned Nigel Farage, but they haven't mentioned Kemi Badenoch. But there we go, Ben. There we go. Maybe that's more telling, isn't it? Listen, Ben, I look forward to your show tonight. Stay tuned. Ben will be back with you all in 15 minutes. Another sensational show. Ben Leo,
Thank you, mate.
We'll see you shortly on The Late Show Live. OK, well, we've got lots more coming up. Boris Johnson has said that he, of course, has got a big, big regret. I'm going to reveal that regret to you in just a moment. Stay tuned.
GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk now? No, that's it. This is where it matters. Real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up? About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. Well, what do you think Boris Johnson's biggest regret is? What do you think it is? Because I could think of many. Some he hasn't apologised for, actually. I would say, actually, letting over 1 million people come into the United Kingdom should be his biggest regret. But it's not. It's not that one. It's another one. One you might not have guessed. And he said he went too far, too fast on net zero when he was Prime Minister and was carried away by the notion that renewable energy sources could replace fossil fuels. Of course, former Conservative Party leader Boris Johnson, who was a champion of green policies, cautioned against junking net zero altogether, but believes that Labour's target of making the UK carbon neutral should be delayed beyond 2050. In a forthcoming book called Prosperity Through through growth. Johnson admitted that when Russia's invasion of Ukraine pushed up gas prices, it became clear that the UK's net zero strategy had to change. That's the Daily Telegraph have been reporting that. He's got a new book out. I didn't know that. No wonder why he's changing policies. He wants to sell his new book, it looks like, Samuel. Samuel, I have a feeling you might disagree with Boris on this one. Do you think we should stay the course on net zero or speed it up?
Well, I think that, if you're in deep trouble if you find me agreeing with Boris Johnson on literally anything. But yeah, I think what Boris is doing here, obviously, yes, he's trying to peddle his new book. But what he's also doing is going to where a lot of the political momentum is, again, in terms of what Reform are doing, Reform is saying in terms of this country's carbon commitments, that even the Labour Party have stepped away from a little bit in terms of what they were pledging in their manifesto. He's following the money, and with a charlatan like Boris Johnson selling out his beliefs like that, then
yeah, he was described as a shopping trolley, I think, famously by Dominic Cummings, who obviously not best friends anymore, are they? But maybe we should just be a little bit more sensitive to politicians that want to change their minds, Chloe.
So I'll give him a little bit of benefit of doubt in that I am someone who thought that net zero sounded like a fantastic idea to start with, and then when this went on longer and longer and we started to actually see this is going to cost us a lot more before energy bills start coming down, then I started to change my mind on it. But it does feel a little bit like him going whichever way the wind blows, given that this was such a flagship policy for him. So when there was the COP conference hosted in Scotland under his premiership, I believe he said that he wanted that to be as big as the London 2012 Olympics. He thought this was going to be huge, and then it barely made the headlines.
I'm not surprised somehow, Paul. The shopping trolley prime minister, perhaps, or maybe he's just coming to the same conclusion that other people have had, maybe like Chloe, that actually net zero was a good idea in the time, but now it's a disaster.
There's a couple of things to note there. Carried away, literally, if Dominic Cummings is to believe that it is his wife, Kerry, that really was promoting the net zero stuff in the background, and he was following suit. Look, the shopping trolley thing is not entirely inaccurate. I've read a couple of Boris Johnson biographies that haven't been written by him, and it's quite clear that no one really understands his politics. Even he doesn't. He goes. Famously with the Brexit, he waited for Cameron to choose which way he was going to go. Then went the opposite way,
just so he could become prime minister. Perhaps.
But I think ultimately net zero has become somewhat, irrespective of what you might believe, a political luxury in terms of its affordability. It's very difficult to be able to, in the current climate now. No pun intended, but it is very difficult to pay for.
Yeah,
incredibly difficult to pay for.
Well, there's another story I want to bring your attention to, and Ben sort of alluded to this a moment ago, but replacing Kemi Badenoch as the Tory party leader would apparently not lead the party to fare better against Nigel Farage. Well, a poll of 2,000 people has found Robert Jenrick, James Cleverly and Boris Johnson all faring worse against Reform UK than Mrs Badenoch. I'm actually quite surprised to hear this, but maybe perhaps, Chloe, it's because that people don't know who the others are so much?
I think that...
Outside of our political bubble, of course.
I think that whether it's a flashy new policy, a flashy new leader, whatever it is the Tories do, people just think enough is enough. We don't believe that you can turn this ship around. I think that's probably the case here. I'm kind of glad to see that it wouldn't make much difference in the polling, because I really don't want to see another Tory leadership election, because that's going to be one of my biggest frustrations with the Tories, is they're so busy having leadership elections all the time that when they were in government, they were never actually focusing on delivering on their policies.
True. Well, look, there's a video that caught my eyes today. I thought it was really funny. But do you think, would you do this to your other half, perhaps your wife, your husband, if you were driving along? Would you do this? Have a look.
I cannot resist this opportunity. She will not speak to me ever again. But I cannot miss this opportunity.
Yeah, there he is. There she is. That is his drenched wife, I believe. A few expletives there. I'd totally do it. I have to admit, it's just too irresistible. But Paul, would you do that to your other half?
No.
No, you wouldn't. No, the consequences too much.
I think that's incredibly mad to do that. I've never been one for pranks either. I always feel the cruelty of it. That to me feels very cruel.
No, I love seeing these couples on Instagram that prank each other all the time. I mean,
there's a limit. I think there's certainly a limit, but he was picking
I
her
hope
up.
that she'll get her karma. She'll have her go.
Well, he does ask her in the video, what's for tea tonight afterwards, Samuel. Do you think he's a bit cheeky?
Well, I mean, I don't have a garden to sleep in, so
yeah, totally understand that. Listen, I think it's a little bit of fun. I think he definitely saw the opportunity there, and at least he was picking her up, because you do see that happen in London loads, right? You're not quite puddles the size of that very often in London, but you're.
I've been drowned so many times, head to toe, shoes ruined by someone who can't be bothered to slow down.
You see, I think that's rude, but there's a difference if you know somebody and you're like, right, they're going to get in a nice warm car. 2 seconds later, wants to pull over, and it'll all be all right. But I don't think he was getting tea tonight, though, was he? But look, we've had so much to talk about tonight, and I think realistically, I think today I was really expecting the front pages for tomorrow to be all about the Tories, all about the leader of the opposition, the future government of the country. This might be the first time in many of our lifetimes that actually a time when the Tories are in opposition that they aren't leading the front pages with their policies. I think this is a potential turning point here. I think we're seeing a massive shift in politics. We could be at a case in 5 years' time where actually the leader of the opposition is Ed Davey by some polls. So I think we could be in for a very interesting year ahead of us, couldn't we? An interesting 4 years nonetheless. But thank you, Paul, Chloe, Samuel, all for joining me tonight. I really appreciate it. Thank you for your company. I'll be back here very early tomorrow morning for Britain's Newsroom. But next is The Late Show Live, hosted by the one and only Ben Leo.
Thank you, Alex. Get yourself some coffee in the morning if you're hosting Britain's Newsroom. Deary me, I feel a bit sorry for you. Coming up on The Late Show Live tonight, Donald Trump is protecting American farmers with a $10 billion bailout package because he recognises and appreciates how dear farmers are to the state of the nation, the country and indeed the world. In the meantime, though, Keir Starmer back home in the UK, of course, slapping them with massive inheritance tax bills that will threaten to cripple their future. Elsewhere, a day of national shame tomorrow, October the 7th, anniversary of the attacks. Why are university students protesting up and down the land? Shame on them. See you in just a tick.
This is your chance to win a motorhome and cash in our biggest giveaway to date. Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be the proud owner of this 2025 Benamar Primero. It comfortably accommodates 4 people and can be driven on your standard driving licence. Plus, you'll also bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like. Make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk then? No, that's it. This is where it matters. Real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
no,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Co weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Miriam, you can't be serious. Scrapping the triple lock on state pensions? Madness.
Andrew, we just can't carry on pretending. The numbers just don't add up. We've got to be honest with people. We've got to face the facts. That's what people want.
Well, that's what you get on GB News and on Britain's Newsroom. Lively debates, lively conversation.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first, and we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Cates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us.